Hey everyone, I'm Jay.
And I'm Sean.
And we watched WandaVision.
Yeah, we did.
So we are on Season 1, Episode 3, now in color.
Now in the 70s.
Well, the episode name is Now in Color.
Okay.
But yes, it is also in the 70s. Or not so much in the 70s as mimicking the style of a 70s sitcom. So the first two episodes came out last week. We talked about them in a video. All kinds of theories. What the heck is happening? In this episode, I think stuff started to really crack.
It did.
We're getting some interesting information, although vague information, let's just say. Still lots of theorizing to do. But last week when the first two episodes came out, they were titleless. They were just episode 1 and 2. Turns out they were just titling these things belatedly. So we found out afterwards that the first one was called Filmed Before a Live Studio Audience, and the second one was called Don't Touch That Dial. So very popular television sayings back in the day. So not super meaningful to the episodes themselves, so I don't know. They didn't exactly give away anything. I'm not sure why they didn't come out with the titles then. And it took even a while to get this one today, now in color. Even though we could see that with our own little eyeballs.
We could, right from the start.
Right from the end of last week, actually.
That's true.
Yes. So at the end of last week, Wanda and Vision realized they were pregnant, and everything turned to color as soon as he agreed that this is really happening. And this week, it's like minutes later, they're in their living room. A very nice house callie doctor has come to confirm a pregnancy, which is already jutting out the belly. It's not really usually confirm the pregnancy time. He suspects she might already be 4 months along, even though it's only been about 12 hours. And what size of fruit is she right now, Sean? Do you remember?
I don't. Maybe an orange?
Maybe an orange. Could be a pear. I think it was a pear.
Okay.
I love, you know what, I mean, we still talk, if you go into certain doctor's offices, they still do the fruit thing. But I like how in the episode, you know, Wanda's face showed just how demeaning it is to have to talk to women about their babies in terms of fruit. And that was back in the 70s, they thought it was ridiculous. But I liked in this episode how many euphemisms we saw, because we still weren't even allowed to really talk about pregnancy and labor and all of that stuff. Had to be mostly hidden because we were so sensitive.
We were.
I mean, those things happen all the time in real life, but we didn't really want to see them on TV.
No. No, don't shock the children.
Yes. I also like when the neighbor Geraldine comes over. So we know that this woman, played by Teyonah Parris, is actually Monica Rambeau. Somebody Rambeau's daughter.
Maria, I believe. Maria Rambeau from Captain Marvel.
Yeah, well, I mean, Monica was also in Captain Marvel.
She was. She was like 8 or something like that.
She was like 10 or 11, yeah. So, and that was in 95. So if we're in present day now, yeah, it makes sense. She's a grown woman. But she's still posing as Geraldine. Comes over, and because Wanda has spouted a pregnancy overnight, she's trying to hide it. And I really like that because I'm always pointing this out to Sean in various movies and sitcoms when a woman is hiding a pregnancy.
You are. Because
they have still the exact same effects to hide a pregnancy, and they are boxy jackets and
a bowl of fruit?
A bowl of fruit, yes! They're carrying binders, they're carrying boxes or a cake. There's always something, a pillow in front of them, which is a terrible disguise for a pregnant belly, but I cannot tell you how many women got through sitcoms in that fashion. Because darn women actors won't put their families on hold for the entire run of a sitcom.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is. They're just not team players.
I guess that is what we have to take away. So I have to say, this episode, and we'll get into the gritty details in a second, but this episode was the first time I realized, like, today was kind of an ode to 70s shows. In just a couple of weeks, we are going to happen upon the 90s. which is when I grew up. I grew up watching a show called Full House. And Full House starred Elizabeth Olsen's big sisters, twins Mary-Kate and Ashley, who played Michelle Tanner on Full House, who I think, and this is a terrible realization, 98% of my personality comes from lessons I learned from Michelle Tanner. Are they going to get that meta, do you think?
They have
throw
to.
in
That
some
would be
Full
such
House?
a missed opportunity.
I
if they don't go
know!
there.
But you know what? Mary-Kate and Ashley are weird little creatures, I have to say. It's strange to me that Elizabeth Olsen comes from that family.
It is.
She's
She
also
looks like
about
them,
twice.
but
She
doesn't
looks, but she's twice as big.
Yeah. It does seem like it's like the second attempt at the Olsens.
Yes. And to be fair, I mean, I say they're little creatures. I mean, twins often are small because they share a womb and stuff. But really, I mean, they're reclusive. They've gone weird, as many child stars do.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a strange environment to grow up in. I don't know how you would ever turn out normal because you just don't have the same experiences.
Right. So, and they were babies when they were first cast on the show. So, this was a 90s sitcom. I didn't realize it, of course, at the time, but I wasn't watching it. I wasn't allowed to stay up that late. We watched it later in syndication. We had no idea what syndication was. It turns out everything we ever watched was an older show that got syndicated. But we were obsessed with this show. We loved Michelle Tanner. My sister Jana had a doll of Michelle Tanner that had a pull string on the back that gave her catchphrases
Well,
like,
she had
"You got it, dude," and "You're in big trouble, mister." Catchphrases. Will we see some catchphrases coming out of Wanda and Vision?
I hope
I
so.
think we have to be going that way.
Yeah.
And what happened to the catchphrase? I feel like that died in the 90s.
Yeah, well, I think it was so overdone because every sitcom was built around a couple of catchphrases.
Which is so terrible.
Oh, it's horrible.
So terrible. But I remember them all because I have no memories for anything important, but 90s catchphrases.
They burrow in there.
Yes.
They're in there forever.
Whew. Okay, so hasn't happened yet, but by our calculations, in about 2 weeks, we should be hitting the 90s.
Yeah.
And Full House could become a thing.
I hope it does.
Okay, so this episode, she's pregnant. She's getting more pregnant by the minute.
Literally.
Yes. Not just 1 minute more pregnant, but like trimesters more pregnant. So she is going to go into labor fairly quickly on this show.
Yeah.
And it does kind of happen in that schlocky way that you would expect from a sitcom where the man is totally inept and unprepared. And I feel like TV writers at the time dealt with feminism by making like, "Oh, men, they're so useless" jokes. Even though obviously every single one of those jokes was written by a man because they wouldn't let women write them. They barely let them say them. So, it's hokey. But I'm really realizing Elizabeth Olsen has a real talent for comedy and timing. And these people are doing such a great job of adopting sort of the speaking style and the mannerisms of the time period.
Yeah, they are. And I realize I saw that more in this episode because I'm more familiar with 70s sitcoms than 60s or 50s. Mm-hmm. I definitely felt that here, where you could see the inspirations that they're drawing from as far as the shows like Brady Bunch and I forget, but there's a bunch of them. Okay,
well, I found it even in the very first episode, just in the line delivery, that was like, nobody is shooting for any sense of realism here. We're not pretending that we're just watching a real family, because every line is delivered as if it was written on a postcard or something. It's just so cheesy and but I'm really impressed with what she's doing with this series, because they are completely transforming the series every episode. Already in this episode, the set is totally transformed.
Yep.
It is still identifiably their home. The couch is where the couch was, the stairs are where the stairs were, but the stairs are different. Everything looks like it was decorated in the 70s now.
It does.
So I did do some comparison. It's not just a matter of it being in color. Everything has been changed for this decade. And not just that, of course the costumes have changed. The hair has changed. The hair
has definitely changed.
Yeah,
Vision is rocking a great do.
Oh, he is. And she's got like almost long Cher hair, which she's always shimmying back. So I think what a great job they're doing on that. I know that this series, so this one is, was this one 8 episodes long?
I believe it's 9.
Going to be, okay.
I think they made it 9.
Okay. So they gave as much money as they would give to an Avengers movie to the series. So at the end of the day, the series will be about a 6-hour-long movie. So it's breaking down to about $25 million an episode, which is a pretty good,
that's a good chunk of change.
For
you can redo your house
every week. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun. They are going all out on this.
Oh, they are for sure.
So here we are in week 3. She's pregnant, getting more pregnant by the second. Hold on to your horses. I really wonder her costume change. It was the same dress, but it must have been getting bigger as the episode went on to accommodate the belly, which was wildly out of control.
She is a witch. She's magical.
I guess she is, yes. And we were definitely seeing a lot of that this episode.
Yes, we were.
Again,
as she tries to hide all of her pregnant self.
Well, that was more a bowl of fruit than magic. But I just mean like she's, sending the vacuum and the paint, and she's really doing stuff that feels a little bit I Dream of Jeannie to me, or Bewitched, where, she's just waving her hand and stuff is happening. The effects are effects you would expect to see in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. They are keeping them period specific. We saw another commercial. This one was for Hydra soap.
Yep.
Like a bath powder. So I think these commercials are so interesting because clearly some part of the outside is soaking in through these commercials. They're not the only part that's seeping in though. No. We are getting to see more and more cracks in the facade, and I don't just mean the one that the neighbor made while trimming his bushes. Although he does trim his bushes. I gotta stop using quotes on that, it's getting dirtier. All the way into a cement wall.
Yep, he does.
So that's definitely like a malfunction, a glitch. A glitch in the system, it seems.
Yeah.
So we're seeing more of those things.
Yes, we are.
So they're adding up to something. We're not sure what, but we have a clearer idea, I think, this episode than we have before.
We do.
So, poor Wanda. She's preggers. In fact, she's going into labor. Her inept husband, Vision, runs out to get a doctor. Monica Rambeau, who's still posing as Geraldine, just, very nice neighbor Geraldine, although the other neighbors are starting to gossip about her.
They are.
Because where did she come from? And like I said, we're starting to get not hostile vibes from the other neighbors, but something feels off with them. So the fact that they're accusing Geraldine of being off or of not belonging, okay. So we know that there's at least 2 different factions at play here.
Which is interesting.
It is. How does that even happen? Of course, one theory is that Wanda might be held captive somewhere and she's in sort of a matrix where they're trying to extract information from her. But how would the other side have infiltrated that?
That's right.
Of course, another theory that I sort of liked was this was just a construct for her to deal with the pain of having actually lost Vision, because he died.
Yep.
Right? He died in the movies.
He did.
He's dead. He's gone. And yet here he is on this series.
Yeah. Well, they were in the process of backing him up. So we don't know how that went, although we don't think it was completed before he was vaporized.
Well, maybe he can only exist within this matrix.
Maybe.
But the question is, who has constructed it? Yeah. Is it Wanda, or is it one of the 2 factions? Because either way, there are at least 3 sides here.
Yep.
And they're not the same size. There's some shady stuff, I think, that's pulling.
Well, there has to be, because why else is this going on? If you're just trying to take care of Wanda and Vision, you don't need to have this whole pretend thing, and then you don't have a third side.
Okay, fair enough. So poor Wanda is going to give birth on her living room floor. So hopefully they recarb it next week.
Well, they will.
Monica Rambeau is there to catch the baby. She does more than catch the baby, though.
Yes, she does.
Because it's twins. It's twins, which is good because she and Vision were arguing about what to name the baby, Billy or Tommy. Which, I mean, who cares? Billy or Tommy, please. Those are interchangeable and equally boring. But anyways, now there's two, so I guess there could be a Billy and a Tommy. But Wanda suddenly recalls to Geraldine that she herself is a twin. So, except for a few offhand remarks to my wife being European, they have really not referenced anything outside of this little WandaVision bubble. They are absolutely the same characters that we know from the MCU. This show exists within the MCU. And in fact, will be important to future properties in Phase 4 of the MCU.
Of course it will, because that's what Marvel does.
Yes. And we do have videos about that coming shortly. Because it's actually gone, it's gone bananas. It has gone ham on Phase 4. So we'll be breaking that down. But for this, this show is going to be important. So if you are a Marvel fan and you don't have a Disney Plus subscription yet, you got to get it now.
You do, because there's not just WandaVision.
No.
There are series running all year that are going to be part of it.
That's what I've just been implying.
Yes, you have.
Yes, but thank you.
Well, sorry.
No. So it's twins, and she talks about being a twin, and she remembers her brother's name.
Yes,
so I think that's a big deal, because I don't know if it's part of the construct to not really reach beyond it, but...
Well, we know in the first episode when they were asked where they came from, they
didn't know, yeah. So she has remembered her brother. And Monica, or Geraldine, I should say, has something to say about that.
Yes, she does.
So she has made it clear to us and partially to Wanda that she knows Wanda from something else. She knows Wanda's brother. She knows how Wanda's brother died.
Yeah, and so do we.
Yes. Awkwardly, though, and you help me on this, she says something like, didn't Ultron kill him? But isn't Vision partly Ultron?
Okay, so Vision was supposed to be Ultron's body and is part of the same consciousness, but they are two separate things.
I know they're separate things. I'm just saying, isn't that where Vision comes from?
That Vision definitely was created by Ultron in the MCU, combined with Tony Stark.
I'm sort of surprised that doesn't provide more friction in their relationship.
Yeah, Vision was a bystander in that whole process, though, so I guess it was easy enough to get over. I mean, they also fought pretty seriously in Civil War,
okay,
which I would think would be as much of an obstacle as Vision's dad killing Wanda's brother,
okay.
But who knows?
Okay. But Monica, I think, maybe was not meant to say what she did.
She definitely wasn't, and she looked like she regretted it. Well,
yes, but we also see at the end of the episode, she is expelled from whatever you want to call them. I'm calling it the Matrix. She has been removed forcibly.
She has, yep.
So she just disappears suddenly on Wanda, but then we see her in the aftermath of being expelled.
Yes, we do.
So, yeah. It did make me feel like she said something she wasn't supposed to. And I do think you're not supposed to...
It made me feel like Wanda kicked her out.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I think a lot of these things, you and I have slightly different impressions, because you also thought Wanda was doing the rewinding.
Yeah, I did.
In a previous episode, and there was a little rewind in this one as well.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's not the case. In fact, I think it probably is. But it does depend on who you believe has constructed this whole thing. Because maybe it's Wanda doing it, but maybe it's somebody else.
It could be.
You know, if they see it's not going the way they wanted to, perhaps they just start over.
Yeah, it could be. Mm-hmm. I just feel like it's not going the way Wanda wants to when it rewinds, and things happen differently.
Okay.
Or she's mad at someone or doesn't trust them, and then they disappear.
Sure, okay. So how did you like this episode?
I thought it was really good.
Yeah, you liked it.
It's sort of coming together, and obviously we know a little more, but not much. But it looks like it's definitely, this episode has a lot of momentum, I felt, where the end especially really opens up to say, now we know for sure that there is a this is in modern day, and there's a lot of people involved.
Yes. A lot of official people involved. So this is no clandestine whatever.
No.
Something big is afoot, and whatever is being experienced in the WandaVision bubble is not real.
Yeah.
I think we're really also exploring Wanda's powers in new ways. And I know last time we talked about this, you said, like, really, the movies haven't even touched on all that she can do according to the comics. I don't even know that we call her Scarlet Witch yet.
Yeah, she really is.
I don't think
Wanda
anyone has ever called her that.
MCU.
But I think we're getting towards that. And I say that because there was a stork who was stalking things and kept going up in a puff of scarlet smoke.
Yep.
But anyways, we know Wanda has weird powers like telepathy and hypnosis and telekinesis and the ability to alter reality, which is why it seems possible that she could have just built this in her head. Absolutely. And it's a way to deal with grief, or it's a way to stay with her love, or she could just be held there against her will and somebody else is doing the constructing for whatever reason. But we are seeing that either way, she is affecting her environment.
Oh, she definitely is.
So whether or not she's doing the rewinding, we can debate, and obviously things will hopefully become clear as the series goes on. But when she was in labor, I don't know if being in labor just gave her a little less control over her powers, which I think are always tough to control anyways, right?
Yeah.
But stuff was happening. The environment around her was reflecting her pain and her just the drama of the whole situation. And the whole neighborhood was like losing power and suffering earthquakes and stuff. So it wasn't just a little bit around Wanda. She really had the power to change the whole situation. So that was, I thought, really interesting and really revealing. I think that's, part of something we haven't really seen from her before.
Not often.
So we did also see, before Geraldine or Monica Rambeau disappeared from WandaVision, we did recognize that she was wearing a symbol.
A sword.
The sword symbol, right? So this is the Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division. So these people are involved somehow.
That's clear. We've seen that symbol in every
many
episode.
Times, yes. They are the good guys, maybe?
Ish. Yeah.
Who are the bad guys? Who are the good guys? And what do they want from Wanda?
Yeah.
Because it's clear, no matter whose simulation we're in, people are there to get something from her.
Yep.
It's not good. So, yeah, I feel like we did reveal a lot of new stuff this episode. It's still too much up in the air to call anything at this point. But I'm really enjoying how they're making these. I love all the period-specific details they've got, like the laugh track that is changing over time, like laugh tracks did in sitcoms. Yep. That very first one, filmed in front of a live studio audience, Now it's getting more generic-y laugh track. I also read that they were using period-specific lenses. And so over the course of these 7 episodes, they have used almost 50 different lenses. So, and even sometimes having to like custom make lenses to replicate what they would have had back then. And doing the same with the lighting. So in the 50s and 60s and 70s, they didn't have the same kind of lighting we use now. Back then they were using tungsten lightings. In series that'll be from 2000s and beyond, they would be using LEDs. So weird little things like that, I think, are really contributing to make this a very interesting and watchable series. And I think it's going a long way, at least for me. I know it's not as big a deal for you, Sean, but when we talk about Marvel fatigue, this has really refreshed the genre from me. This is a new way of storytelling. I really enjoy what we're seeing from this. Christoph Beck is composing the music for the series, is also using period-specific like instrumentation and recording techniques. You may have noticed there was a new theme song this week. The theme songs, and I think there are going to be 3 over the course of the series, are written by Robert Lopez and Kirsten Anderson Lopez.
From Frozen. That's
right, Disney powerhouse songwriters. So yeah, I think they're really pouring money into this. They're keeping it interesting.
They are. They're keeping it different. And as you said, this is a really nice twist on what we would have expected from a superhero show. It really has a lot of layers to it.
A lot, yeah, that's right. We talked about a lot of constructs and who might be constructing the constructs. Originally, we also thought this could just be part, like an alternate reality almost, because we know that in Phase 4, we're certainly dealing with a lot of multiverse aspects, right? Probably in the Spider-Man movie, definitely in the Doctor Strange movie. And this series is definitively leading up. It's going to tie into the Doctor Strange movie. So you need to be watching it to appreciate Doctor Strange. Elizabeth Olsen will be in Doctor Strange. But that's not the only tie-in. Teyonah Parris, who plays Monica Rambeau, will also be appearing in Captain Marvel 2, which will be set in present day. So yeah, there's a lot that this series really is actually affecting the MCU as a whole. So this is not just some TV show to keep people entertained. Of course, in 2020, for the first time in like a dozen years, we didn't have any Marvel movies. There were meant to be 3, I think, but we got 0. So WandaVision was not meant to be the first thing we saw out of Phase 4. It was meant to be Black Widow. That has been pushed back. So we are getting WandaVision now. So it's going to be quite some time before we see Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is what it's called. Sounds exciting.
It does.
It's going to be a while before we see that. So we got to watch WandaVision, soak up all these clues, all these tie-ins, and remember them. So
we can just watch it again.
Oh, great. Somehow I knew you'd say that.
Ah, well.
Okay, so do you have any, like, what's happening next week? Where do you want to see this go?
Where do I want to see this go?
Where?
I want them to pull back the curtain.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's see what's going on. You're ready
to start seeing what's going on.
Yes, I am.
Because I guess I started talking about the multiverse because I think this is not an alternate reality just because we see that there's an outside world to it, right?
That this is the Wanda and Vision from the MCU that we know because... Yes, they're confirming that there was a thing with Ultron and that her brother, Quicksilver, died during it. That's what happened. That's what we know happened. Right.
However, we also know that Vision is dead.
Yeah, we do.
And yet here he is with that shining stone. Color. He's in color this week.
Yeah.
Actually, last week... he had to appear in makeup, but he did not appear in maroon makeup because it didn't play well with the black and white. So I think it was like a weird blue color that they had to paint him to look right.
Just like they would have done in the 60s.
Yeah, well they did. You did your makeup very differently back then to look good in black and white. And so they hired people like, I don't know if you remember the movie Pleasantville, that also starts in black and white and gains color. They hired people who had worked recently in black and white and had prop experience and just how do you make everything pop when you've only got a scale of gray to work with.
Yeah, because you're right, it is a totally different experience that most people don't have nowadays.
No, of course. So it is really interesting, I think, to be watching this and you learn a little bit about the decades since so far they've all been before our time. It'll be a little bit before I catch up to mine. I'm really excited for those Michelle Tanner references.
Well,
I gotta say, come on, Full House.
Yeah.
Will Uncle Jesse suddenly appear?
Well, why not?
We can only hope.
Yeah.
Not Aunt Becky though.
Oh yeah, she'll probably still be in prison.
Ooh, boy. Yeah. So it's exciting.
Yes, it is.
How are you feeling about WandaVision, guys? I know the first 2 episodes were weird. They were polarizing. People thought they're either weird or they're wonderful and weird. Did you stick with it? Did you like this one better? I think it's an exciting series myself. And I am not that superhero-y in my heart of hearts.
I do know that. You've made that very clear. And that's okay. But this is where Marvel should be going. Don't keep making the same movie over and over again. You have 50, 60 years of comics that have done crazy stuff. And
clearly.
This is crazy stuff. So
yes,
it's neat to see.
And such talented people behind the camera, pulling it all together in a way that is really, I think, bringing a lot of fresh blood to the MCU. And I think you could watch these series without knowing any of these people and still enjoy them as a standalone whatever. But like I said, there's tons of Easter eggs for fans, and I think you gotta be taking notes. You gotta really be paying attention because this stuff is gonna come up.
Absolutely. That's why this is happening. It's gonna be important.
It's gonna be important, that's right. So that's it for this week. Stay tuned for next week's episode. We're super excited, and I bet you are too. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.